Superintendent, thank you so much for stopping by today. So I wanted to ask you, right now you're in discussions about the strategic plan. One, what does a strategic plan mean, and what are the things you're looking at with that?
It's an exciting moment in time to develop a 5-year strategic plan. So what are our goals? Where do we want to be with our graduation rate? How do we want to have all of our students experience learning in the Clark County School District? So we started with a survey. 48,000 people filled out the survey. We did interviews with influencers across our county, and now we're doing our dream sessions. So even just most recently, we had about 300 people at West Prep giving us their input on what do they see the future for their kids, how do they want their children to learn, and more importantly, we're asking the students as well. So it's been an exciting adventure to look at how we're going to move the entire Clark County School District forward, setting the goals and benchmarks for the next 5 years.
And I know one thing a lot of people are talking about right now that is happening around the state is the budget situation. So, you've clarified that right now there should be positions for everyone, but what would you like to say to people? Because we get budgets at a certain time every school year. How do you approach this where we're not in the same situation every time there's a budget? How do you go about? I know declining birth rates is not something you can control, but is there anything that could be done if people are choosing to maybe go somewhere else? Or I guess, how do you move forward with this?
So first and foremost, with the finances for the Clark County School District, we just came out from under the state monitor, which is wonderful, right? We demonstrated that all of our finances are where they need to be. We are not in a deficit, but what we are doing is we are right-sizing the school district. And what that means is that we're looking not only at the finances that we have that come to us from the state, but schools themselves also had carry forward dollars in the past because of the dollars that were made available by the federal government. So now those carry forward dollars that they were flush in cash with are not there. And so now right-sizing when the money that were provided from the state, federal government as well, principals have the autonomy to make their budgets and make the determination of, is it 3 fifth grade teachers? Is it a campus monitor? Is it an assistant principal? They work with their school organization team, known as the SOT, to develop that budget. And so through that process, and we were very transparent with all the schools have made that determination. And now there are staff that are in what we call surplus. So they have a job. They will go through the process of finding another job for the fall. It's just a matter of where there will be. And so we had actually on Valentine's Day and prior to that as well, sessions for our staff that have questions on, can I apply now for a position that's open? I want actually to apply for a promotion. So what do I need for my resume to do that? And so we're supporting making sure that all of our staff know that they have an opportunity to apply for a job. As far as the birth rates go, yes, we've seen that trend going down, and that's across the entire state. Over the last 5 years, the entire state population of students has gone down 20,000. And that's inclusive of charter schools, homeschools, and all of the options that our parents have. What we want to have is the Clark County School District be the first option. We come into different spaces and ask parents, where does your child go to school? If it's a Clark County School District, I ask how their experience is. If it's not a Clark County School District school, I ask them why and what we could do differently to have them choose CCSD as their #1 choice. For some parents, will never be the #1 choice. They want to be in a religious-based learning environment, and so that is where they send their children. But we are on the move to make sure that we are there for all of our students.
So I know we were talking about the facility master plan. How does that play into the enrollment situation, and what could that look like? Because I know right now online there are just some recommendations, but what could this mean?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity right now as we do see the birth rate dropping. So in parts of our town, there are fewer students. But it's also in parts of town where we have older school buildings. And so going through a facilities master plan, looking at all 374 schools that we have, and also central office buildings, as well, making sure that they are the best learning environment, that these buildings we want to last into the 22nd, right, century, next, not just 21st, that's where we're at, right, but the 22nd century, and build the buildings that are modern, great places to learn, have the hands-on environments, great working spaces for our educators. So on March 4th, we'll have our first round of early actions for the Board of Trustees to consider. And then we'll work with the communities around Clark County School District, all of Southern Nevada, to make sure that our community, again, has input. There's a lot of history in our buildings, so we want to make sure we value and take the history with us if we're going to trade up in a building space. So it's many considerations that are going on at the same time.
And would this be like creating a K through 8, or would it be taking two elementary schools who both have low enrollment and then putting them into a combined replacement school, or what would that look like?
Our community actually has asked us to look at K-8 schools, and so we've been doing that. Show up for March 4th and look to see what the community input is and what our staff recommendation is for the future, but definitely see K-8s in the future for the Clark County School District.
If the district decides to move forward with this, how far down the line could this happen? Would it be next year, or is it 5 years?
So we currently have, like Matt Kelly will go through, they will move this next school year and open up in the 27 fall. We're looking to have other schools open in 27, 28, and 29, as well as 30. So if the board does approve the recommendations that have been brought forward, we'll plan out through 2030 for the first round, but then we'll also get a second round this summer.
Okay, and I'm trying to think of the survey I did. Some schools were still, I know we were talking about discipline improvements. Some are still seeing some behaviors in the classroom. How do you approach those situations where does it start at the school level? When does it get to the district? And what would you like to say to those who believe there are still behavior issues in the classroom? Yeah, so even as the state superintendent, right, discipline in the classroom, behavior of students, all of that is top of mind. When the governor did sign the bill in 2023, making sure that teachers knew that they were empowered, because that's what you're hearing is the same thing that I was hearing, is that first of all, teachers didn't feel empowered in their own classroom. That had to change. And so working first within the classroom, right, the teacher is there, the one that is leading the instruction, all of those pieces. Then working with their administration, but most importantly, working with the parent, right? Having clear communication with the parent of that this behavior is not appropriate, and let's work together to change the behavior, because we don't want the child out of the classroom either. So how do we make sure we get to changing behavior within the classroom? And then there is a process, as we just reported out through the last school board meeting, there is a process that we follow if a child does need to be suspended, does need additional supports, all of those pieces. But at the end of the day, it's incumbent upon us to make sure it's a safe, respectful learning environment for 100% of our children. I forgot to ask you about this, but okay, yeah. With some of the budget things happening, we know Nevada already has some of the largest class sizes. And I know there are state laws, but there are also a lot of waivers that are in place. How do you ensure that the students and the teachers are having the best experience in the classroom? In some cases, we're hearing that some classes may be getting larger with some of the surplusing happening.
Yeah, so we're tracking the size of the classrooms across the entire district. This last fall, some parents let us know that there were some schools that had, because I said, no, that's not true. And they said, yes, it is. And I said, well, then please give me the names. And so we did investigate and find that some schools had higher class sizes. So we work with the principal to then level out and shift some things around to drive that class size down. We do want to make sure that our class sizes are as small as they can be. Research has shown that at the elementary level, 14, 15 kids is the right number. That's not the state level number, even at this moment in time, but continue to articulate what research shows gained student improvements. We had massive student improvement over the last 2 years, And that is 100% not only attributable to our principals and our teachers and parents, but we had funding available to us to drop the class sizes to make sure that kids had the resources. And so in all those instances of investment, and I've been doing this for a long time, every time the legislature has invested in education, our data has improved. And so, we keep demonstrating it. Now we need to just have it be consistent, proper funding for our schools over time so we can show that consistent investment makes gains for our children.
Can I follow up on the budget?
Do it real quick.
Okay, so you were talking about funding, and I do want to ask you about this because everyone I've spoken with has been talking about how Nevada is 4,000 below the national average for per pupil. I was speaking with CCA Executive Director Villardita, and he said that one thing, the district and CCA are working on is making sure that while you're also asking for more funding, which I want to ask you, is that the plan in 2027? But how do you show, or what's the best way of showing them, hey, here are the results if you give us that money? How do you go about that?
Yeah, we've demonstrated. I'll give first our graduation rate. We increased 5.1 percentage points. We're at 86.6% for our graduation rate. That is because of the funding that was provided during the 23 legislative session, as well as our improvement in English language arts, math, and science across all grade levels. In English language arts, 4.9% at the middle level this last year. We're already, I'm tracking current growth data with the assessments that we have mid-year. Our schools, I presented it yesterday, but they're all improving in growth and proficiency. That is attributed to the investment. Like, we have the data. The legislature, the governor now need to act upon that data.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love your questions. Yeah.